USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar. Zero patience for slow walkers. Those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night. Have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to this edition of There Can Only Be One, the podcast that puts together the all-star best-of playlist of your favorite bands and artists, and a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Hello to all of our listeners in Le Plessis Robinson in France and around the world. How you guys doing? We are continuing our journey across the Great White North and the music that comes from it, because this week we're talking about the Tea Party. And here to join me back on the show, Sean Faust is here. Sean, how you doing, man?
Hey, thank you for joining me, letting me join you on the show. I'm really looking forward to talking about these guys.
Honorary Canadian for the day. And
yes,
here's the deal, dear listeners. You guys know, because I have talked about the show enough. If you listen to my weekly mixtape, there was an episode a while back talking about trios, and Sean and I were both guests on that show. And I, like the dick that I am, stole the Tea Party pick from Sean during that show. So here to make it up to him, to be able to give him the space to talk all the Tea Party he could possibly want, Sean, your time has come. How stoked are you?
I'm more excited having done the deep dive than I was before doing the deep dive, because all I really knew was like Splendor Solace through Triptych without Alhambra. I was unaware of it until you gave me the list. So this, what are we calling the Tea Party album? We're just going to call it the Tea Party?
The self-titled, yes. Yes,
the self-titled, which I guess when we get into it, we'll mention how it sounds like a demo. But I had never heard anything after, and I mean, when we get to it, I loved this deep dive so much. And I'm looking at my list of choices, and some of them I still have no choice. It's going to come down to the wire.
So, dear listeners, here's what we're going to do. We're going to be going through 10 discs from the Tea Party discography. As always, we're not going to go through any live albums or any greatest hits compilations. And if you know the Tea Party discography, this means that songs like Walking Wounded and their cover of Painted Black are actually off the table for this discussion. Also, the album Blood Moon Rising, it was originally released on Spotify as two different EPs, the Black Moon EP and the Sunshine EP, but it was also released as a full-length album. So we're going to cover it just as Black Moon Rising. But we're going to get our start all the way back in 1991 with the release of their self-titled album, released in June of that year and reissued in 2021. There were no singles off of this disc, but a video was done for the song Let Me Show You the Door. You mentioned it sounds like a demo. It's so much, when you think about the Tea Party, you have an image in your head of how it's supposed to sound. So jumping into this self-titled debut, was it a bit of a curveball for you?
I was kind of like, it sounds like Tea Party, just not as polished. Not as and especially since this album has a lot of stuff that Splendor Solace has, and just differently. I was like, whoa, wait, did I just listen to this? What's going on here? Because I started at Edges and I just kind of went around. I didn't go in order. And the production on this was kind of jarring.
I mean, I can get that because when you think about the production value that went into Splendor Solace and thereon, it's some of the best produced albums in Canada. And then we're talking about, a country that's put out some pretty damn decent producers. The Tea Party has always sounded like one of the most polished studio bands ever. But this one it's a little on the raw side. Only 3,500 copies of the album were actually made. So yeah, some of them were also on cassette, so that just dates everything. But off this demo disc, this original album, what did you go with?
I was going to stick with the instrumental, but I'm actually going to go with Watching What the Rain Blows In.
Good song. So good, I went with it myself as well.
Yeah.
But what is it about this song?
It sounds the most like them while still being on this recording. And so does Winter Solstice.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was my what's the word we use for
the short list?
The short list. Thank you. That was my choice for the short list. And actually, like before I even got to Watching What the Rain Blows In, I was like, yeah, this is all good. Oh wow, this is the version of Save Me. I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. But then Watching What the Rain Blows In just grabbed me.
Yeah, the guitars on this, for lack of a better term, are just lush. Just so full and lush. Sound. I can only assume it's a 12 string that they're using on the recording of that, because it sounds like a big full 12 string. I had Little Miss Heaven and Let Me Show You the Door on my short list. Let Me Show You the Door really feels like that kind of bar rocker that you would have, as you're getting ready to put out that first album. Playing the clubs, trying to get people interested. It sounds like the kind of thing that you would start your set list with back then.
But it doesn't sound like them.
No.
Yeah.
No, it just sounds like the kind of thing they would play as a bar band. But keeping in mind where they are in their career at this point, it kind of makes sense.
No, I agree. And believe me, I'm not saying that this is a bad album at all. I'm just saying I was thrown for a loop. I don't even know what that phrase means, but that's exactly what I was.
We now move on to Splendor Solace, released June 11th, 1993. Hit number 20 on the Canadian charts, number 30 in Australia, and number 44 in New Zealand. It is double platinum in Canada. There were 3 singles off of this one. The River charted the highest, hitting number 39 in Canada. At the 1994 Junos, they were nominated for Best Album Design but lost to Faith Lift by Spirit of the West. And they were nominated for Best Hard Rock Album but lost to Dig by I Mother Earth.
Ooh.
That's a knockdown, drag-out fight right there.
Edwin, is that his name?
Yep.
Edwin joined my favorite Canadian trio's guitar player for the Victor album.
Oh,
that would be Alex Lifeson, for those of you not from the Great White North. Yeah. Take off.
Yeah. When your bassist is only Geddy Lee and you have to go get Les Claypool to play bass on your album.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were also nominated for Best New Group that year, but lost to the Waltons. And let me just tell you about 1994 in Canada. Also nominated for Best New Group that year, aside from the Tea Party, were Junk House, The Odds, and Sloan. And we've already covered Sloan on this show. That is a powerhouse group, but I have to say that I've never heard of the Waltons. Every other band I have heard of and are phenomenal, I've never heard of the Waltons. Maybe it's a genre thing, but still, Junk House, The Odds, Sloan, and the Tea Party all nominated for Best New Group that year. None of them won. Tough company. But off of Splendor Solace, what did you go with?
Here's my short list. Okay, it's Save Me and In This Time are the short list. It was almost In This Time until Dreams of Reason. I haven't heard this song in years, and it was just like, this is like really Floydy, but it's got like a Watermelon and Easter Hay from Zappa, like epic vibe. And Dreams of Reason is where I went because it just gave me that whole, I Am In You vibe.
Well, we didn't sync up on this one. On my shortlist were A Certain Slant of Light, Save Me, and Raven Skies, but I went with The River. And let's be honest, Splendor Solace is probably the very first taste of the Tea Party that most people actually heard. This being the lead-off song on the album, and what an absolute way to introduce yourself to the mass public. Like the opening drum riff, that whole little guitar intro that leads into this, like it's such a mammoth. If you're gonna start a show, this is how you should start the show.
Fair.
Here's the surprising thing, dear listeners. Sean is not Canadian.
I'm not.
He is not from this land up north.
I've been to Canada.
So I'm going to ask, before we go any further into this, being from where you are, how did you get into the Tea Party to begin with? Because this isn't one of those bands. This isn't like Rush, where everyone in the world knows Rush. The Tea Party, yeah, they played outside of Canada, but were they big outside of Canada?
At the time, I was dating a young woman named Robin, who, oddly enough, was the maid of honor at my wedding. And I got to her house with my guitar player at the time, and her friend Christopher was there, who had his 12-string. And just through talking, we found we were into Sabotage. We liked Dream Theater. We were like, we both were digging on the Coverdale Page album, which to this day I'll say is still one of my favorite Zeppelin albums. So we just got on stuff, like just talking music and jamming a bit on things. And then the next time I saw him, he had a copy of Splendor Solace for me. And I was like, all right, cool. He's like, he's from Canada, by the way. So I owe this deep dive and my love for the Tea Party to Christopher. And I believe he is up in your neck of the woods, my friend, in a band called the Red River Riot. I don't know if they're still around, but I know Christopher is one hell of a songwriter, and he's done everything from like prog and alt heavy. I don't know how to describe what he does, because he's different while maintaining something familiar. His band, when they were here in Jersey, is still to this day one of my favorite bands of all time. They were called Animal God, Then Come Closer. And then he went on to do something called the We're Next Project. And at the moment, Red River Riot. So do check out Christopher's music. It's fantastic, especially if you like Tea Party or any of the other bands I've mentioned. But yeah, he gave me this tape. And then, of course, a year later, I had another tape.
See, that's how it happens, right? We bring the albums down. It's like Canadian contraband. We'll just bring the good music down and introduce everybody to it, which is the way it should be. By the way, Red River Riot does have a bunch of music on Spotify, so by all means, go and check them out.
And if you really want to be cool, go elsewhere and buy it.
Yes, always buy the music. Buy it from the band if you can. But if you're nowhere near and you can't find it, at least give them those Spotify spins.
Of course, yes. And buy it, then stream it.
Yes, double down on everything.
Exactly.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Llegaron los nuevos McCrispy Strips, listos para aventurarse en la mezcla de mayo ketchup, la barbecue que quedó en el fondo de la cajita, Hot Fudge Sundae y en la nueva Creamy Chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Los nuevos McCrispy Strips, ahora en McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
The Edges of Twilight, released March 21st, 1995, hit number 10 in Canada, number 8 in Australia, and number 27 in New Zealand. It is double platinum in Canada and gold in Australia. There were 4 singles in this one. Fire in the Head charted the highest at number 26 in Canada, but The Bazaar hit number 22 on the Canadian rock charts. At the 1996 Junos, they were nominated for Group of the Year, lost to Blue Rodeo. Sister Awake was nominated for Best Video, lost to Good Mother by Jan Arden, and they were nominated for Rock Album of the Year, but lost to a little album called Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette. And let's be honest, that album was going to take all the awards. So off of The Edges of Twilight, what did you go with?
I went with Good Mother by Jan Arden. I've got money in my pocket. I love that song. So I'm sure you're thinking, oh, he went with Fire in the Head because what an album opener. And did you notice at that time, this is 1994, we got that, or 95, I think, 94, that open D to the octave, boom, boo, doo, 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 doo. Sabotage did it. A couple years later, Dream Theater did it with Home, but Fire in the Head, what a great song. I did not go with it. It's on my short list, though, but I went with Correspondences.
Oh, that is a fantastic song. It's also on my short list as well. Also on my short list was The Badger and Turn the Lamp Down Low.
Oh, that's a great one. Although I will say Sister Awake was also on my short list, and I have to say that one of my favorite Led Zeppelin riffs of all time is The Bazaar.
Oh, yeah. So good. So good. But I also went with Sister Awake for this. Thunderous drums, cool changes. Like, it was a toss-up between this and Fire in the Head. Like, really, I could go either way. Turn the Lamp Down Low and Correspondences, like, the Tea Party are so good at, like, the slower songs, leaning into the bluesy a bit more. But they also, when they thunder well. And Sister Awake is absolutely that.
100%.
March 1996 saw the release of the Alhambra EP. This is acoustic versions of past songs and some newer material. So not a lot to choose from here, but what did you go with?
I went with Time with Roy Harper because it wasn't fully acoustic and it was spacey plus Roy Harper. He sang Have a Cigar by Pink Floyd. I should.
Yes.
Yes. No, not yes. Pink Floyd.
Oh, the dad music jokes are alive and well.
Yeah, I've got the hook pulling me off the stage here. Sorry.
Which is funny because I also went with Time, and in my notes I literally have written here, this almost adds like a concept album feel to the song, something very post Floyd Roger Waters-esque, like something that you could have heard of off of like Amused to Death. Right. I did have the acoustic version of Silence on my short list, but it's Time. It's absolutely Time.
I loved the Grand Bazaar. I loved the acoustic Bazaar.
Transmission, released August 19th, 1997, hit number 3 on the Canadian album charts and number 5 in Australia. It is double platinum in Canada and gold in Australia. There were 5 singles off of this one. Temptation charted the highest, hitting number 21 on the Canadian charts and number 4 on the Canadian rock charts. At the 1998 Junos, they were nominated for Group of the Year but lost to Our Lady Peace, and they were nominated for Rock Album of the Year, lost to Clumsy by Our Lady Peace, which Clumsy was an absolutely massive album, so I kind of get it. But Transmission, it's a little leaning to the industrial side of things. And, given 1997 and what was big at the time, kind of makes sense. But what did you go with off of this disc?
I kind of want to talk about how they went that industrial route, because Temptation wasn't huge down here, but we did get it. It was actually, you brought up Jan Arden earlier, who her theme song replaced Paula Cole on Dawson's Creek, and Temptation is in an episode of season 1 of Dawson's Creek. There's that keyboard part in the background on the verses of Temptation that's so cool. That it's freaking awesome. I didn't go with Temptation though. It's definitely my short list. That and Psychopomp are my short list. I went with Release. I've loved that song since the first time I heard this album. That was the song that always grabbed me. Oh yeah, no. Release is actually on my short list. It's not my pick, but it's on my short list. My short list is Release, Temptation, Gyroscope, Alarum, and Aftermath. But I'm going with Psychopomp. This is that
that long buildup, like an entire song's worth of buildup till you get to this power ending. Jeff Martin with the dark vocals. Like, this is like, if you ever wondered what hard rock Leonard Cohen would sound like, this is what hard rock Leonard Cohen would sound like. The song itself feels like a dark movie in and of itself.
Yeah.
Probably directed by none other than David Cronenberg. If anyone's going to direct a movie based on the Transmission album, it's got to be David Cronenberg.
That would be a pretty funky movie.
Funky or up, one of the two.
But I mean, but that would be, how's he going to take psychological horror and make it body horror? Because that, I mean, that's Cronenberg's thing, man.
Right? But you tell me the Transmission wouldn't make for a fantastic soundtrack to some kind of Cronenberg-esque kind of horror film.
Oh, hell yeah. 100%.
Right now, right? I just hope someone's out there listening going, we need to make some calls. We need to make this happen. Because that would be fantastic. You know, I'm just saying that, you know, we're only a couple years away from the 30th anniversary of Transmission. That would be a fantastic way to celebrate it. Just saying, putting it out into the universe.
Say it like that. 30.
Yeah.
That would mean I'm 25.
Yeah.
Again.
It happens.
Yeah, I guess so.
Triptych, released June 8th, 1999, hit number 4 on the Canadian charts and number 14 in Australia. It is double platinum in Canada. There were 5 singles off of this one. Heaven Coming Down charted the highest, hitting number 20 on the Canadian singles charts, and was their first ever number 1 on the Canadian rock charts. At the 2000 Junos, they were nominated for Best Group but lost to the Matthew Good Band. Jeff Martin was nominated for Best Producer for Heaven Coming Down and The Messenger, but lost to Tal Bachman and Bob Rock for She's So High and If You Sleep. They were nominated for Best Rock Album, lost to Beautiful Midnight by the Matthew Good Band, and Heaven Coming Down was nominated for Best Single, but lost to Bob Cajun by the Tragically Hip, which might be the most Canadian sentence I think I've ever said on this show.
I think you just said it, yeah.
Welcome to Canada, everybody. Canada in a podcast. This is it.
The Tragically Hip have welcomed you.
Exactly. The Tragically Hip, Canada's house band. I'm a little surprised. Before we get into this album, I'm a little surprised that Heaven Coming Down was their first number 1 single. I mean, because they had some fantastic songs before that, but also what I'm surprised about is that it wasn't The Messenger. Because I remember when The Messenger came out, it was playing 24/7 on rock radio all the time. I don't remember Heaven Coming Down getting that much airplay in comparison to, like, how was it down there? Like, was it getting radio play?
Well, down here at the time, no radio play, my friend. But down here at that time, we had Much Music, which is from you good folks up north.
Mm-hmm.
And Heaven Coming Down. See, I've got a story to tell you about that really quick. But Heaven Coming Down was it was on all the time, and that's because of Much Music and Heaven Coming Down and the band live from Pennsylvania. I got turned on to a Conline Crush as well, but it was Heaven Coming Down. The Messenger, I don't think I heard that until I heard the album.
See, yeah, The Messenger, and I remember that video was played over and over and over again because I would just come home from a day and just sit and watch Much Music endlessly, recording it on VHS tapes and making mixtapes that way because that's what I did. But off of Triptych, what did you go with?
It's funny you mentioned Matthew Good, and I'm thinking of the chorus from Heaven Coming Down, and it's also like "Hello, Time Bomb," which also Much Music.
Yes.
Thank you again, my friend from the Great White North. So, Money for the Toll, the album Land. There's a song Fields of Red. Originally, when we had the music, my original lyrics and melodies were nothing at all like we ended up with. It was actually a song about. It's just, but with an 80s like kind of flair to the melody and the approach. So of course it was turned down by the rest of the guys in the band, thankfully. And I was like, what am I going to write about? What am I going to write about? And then Heaven Coming Down came on. I was like, Heaven Coming Down is a cool line. I'm going to start the song with Heaven's Falling Down. And so because of Tea Party, we got one of our better reviewed metal songs. I did not go with Heaven Coming Down. But you should check out Land by Money for the Toll, folks. I went with, are you ready for this, man? I went with The Messenger with Chimera on my short list.
I mean, you really can't go wrong with The Messenger, which I had on my short list, along with Heaven Coming Down. I also had Touch and Gone on my short list. But I'm going with a song that was also released as one of the singles, but didn't get as much airplay. I'm going with These Living Arms. This is one of the most underrated songs on this disc. This is also might be the best, how do I put this? Probably the most powerful song in terms of the way it's composed and how it kind of really builds up. And just that wailing guitar solo at the end is kind of like a rally. Holy crap. This song gets me every single time. And this is regret time. I have yet to see the Tea Party live. And if I ever do, I wish, I hope and pray that this song is in the set list, because I could imagine that this would just be a high moment musically in a show.
I got to be honest with you. I haven't seen them live either, if that makes you feel better.
Okay, so if they ever come close, we need to go. This is going to happen. Done.
I'm down.
Done.
I'm down.
The Interzone Mantras, released October 16, 2001, hit number 10 in Canada and number 6 in Australia, and is gold in Canada. There were 3 singles off of this one, both Lullaby and Soul Breaking hit number 3 on the Canadian charts. At the 2002 Junos, they were nominated for Best Group but lost to Nickelback. And Jeff Martin and Nick Blagona were nominated for Best Recording Engineer for Angels and Lullaby, but they lost to Randy Staub for How You Remind Me and Too Bad by Nickelback. And at the 2003 Junos, they were nominated for Rock Album of the Year but lost to Gravity by Our Lady Peace. Another really damn good album. Interzone Mantras, this is where you said that you kind of dropped off from Tea Party listing. How did you find Interzone Mantras as a follow-up to Triptych?
I think it's a much better album than Triptych. Triptych, now I'm not going to say that Triptych is a terrible album. I wouldn't go that route at all. But after Splendor Solace to Transmission, Triptych just didn't, it left a void for me that Interzone Mantras kind of brings back.
Mm-hmm. So off of this, a little bit more raw album, what did you go with?
I almost went with Must, because seriously, dude, have you heard that song?
Oh,
That
yeah.
song's awesome. Almost went with that, with Soul Breaking also on my short list, but I went with Requiem. That ending, holy dude, what a song. And that ending, did I mention the ending of Requiem? Holy.
See, you sound like me talking about These Living Arms off of Triptych. But yeah, no, it was really hard not to pick Requiem. Like, really freaking hard. I didn't pick Requiem. It's on my short list. But it was really hard. But it's hard to kind of overlook Lullaby in this. Mainly because I'm a bassist. And basses carry this song like you wouldn't believe. It is an absolute straight rocker. Coming off of Transmission and Triptych, which were much more, for lack of a better term, headphone experiences. Sit down on the couch, pop the headphones in, and chill. Just mellow in. This is a rock experience. This album is a rock album. Kind of almost gets back to a little bit of that self-titled debut. But yeah, Lullaby is just a straight banger. I also had Angels and Cathartic on my short list as well.
Good album. Really good album. I was glad. This is where the deep dive really began. After the 1991 self-titled album, like everything coming up just was such a delight.
And that's the fun thing too, and I'm sure everyone can relate to this. There comes a point where you are so into an artist for a certain amount of time, and then you just drop off, even though the band keeps on going. And then when you come back and you revisit, you're like, holy crap, there's all this music that I haven't paid attention to from an artist that I loved from this time to this time. That's why I love doing this show. Discovering those albums that I didn't even know were around or didn't have a chance to get around to, or they just wasn't my cup of tea at the time. Gotta love this show. Gotta love doing the deep dive. 7 Circles, released August 17th, 2004, hit number 5 in Canada and number 18 in Australia, and is gold in Canada. There were 3 singles off of this one. Writings on the Wall charted the highest, setting number 3 on the Canadian rock charts. At the 2005 Junos, they were nominated for Rock Album of the Year, but lost to Chuck by some 41. So off of 7 Circles, what did you go with?
All right. So this one's not as tough as the next one, but I have to make my choice now, and I'm going to go with The Watcher.
So good.
Oceans and Overload are the short list, but I am going with The Watcher.
Looking at my short list here. The Watcher is on my short list. Oceans on my short list. Overload on my short list. Stargazer on my short list. And Writings on the Wall on my short list. Empty Glass is my pick off of this one. The whole thing is, the whole album. This might be one of my favorite albums, front to back, from them. And when you realize that this is, 10 years, 13 years into their career, and they're putting out arguably what you can consider to be their best album at the time, says something about their songwriting and just that continuous songwriting. But there's something about just the sustained chords during the chorus. Like, I know I've said stink face bop before. This is a stink face bop. You start playing and you get that look like, like that's a stink. Yes, that is. I wish this was a video podcast because Sean just gave me the perfect stink face bop look. You say stink face bop and you know exactly how you're feeling about this song because you're grooving and your face is scrunched up like you just ate 7 melons or lemons. There you go. Stink face bop. Empty Glass does that musically to you. That good.
That's a really good way to describe that.
Stink face.
I'm not
bop.
changing my choice, but yeah, that is a stink face bop. And you're right about the sustained chords in the chorus. Wow.
But that's the thing. Jeff Martin, arguably fantastic guitarist. Like there's no argument at all. Fantastic guitarist. So for him to just sit back and let those chords sustain and let the groove carry, yeah, like that is writing more with less for the purpose of the song,
which he's great at anyway. He's even when there's a song I don't like, he's still writing for the song, not for the idea of a hit.
Yeah, absolutely. The Ocean at the End, released September 8th, 2014, hit number 17 in Canada and number 18 in Australia, 10 years after the release of 7 Circles. There were 2 singles off of this one. The Black Sea hit number 38 on the Canadian rock charts. Ocean at the End. Your thoughts on this disc?
So you know how before you said 7 Circles is their best album, and then you kind of like up to this date? The Ocean at the End is their best album. I'm looking at The Ocean at the End, and then in parentheses, best album? ? Really tough to choose! ! And then in all caps, I love this album.
So it's okay. It's a good disc.
It's it did its job. I'm floored by this album. I loved this album.
Well, the fact that you had to wait 10 years for the disc as well. So that's 10 years of like built up songwriting waiting to come out. And I know they kind of went their separate ways a little bit during that 10 years, but it's a good collection. But what did I know you hate to make a choice on a disc like this, but what did you go with?
Dude, let me just I'm going to read my list to you. All right.
Should I just pull out the track listing of the whole album?
So pretty much, yeah, but when I say all caps, you'll know that that's my choice. But the Black Sea, because that chorus is amazing. The Maker, Submission, Waters on Fire was almost it until we got to all caps, The Ocean at the End. Dude, you know, like what I dig, and you know, like the kind of sound that I'm into. And when Tea Party does that, holy dude, this album blew me away more than Edges and Splendor did when I first heard them. Like this album did for me. I'm out of adjectives, dude. I just don't have any. There are none. The Ocean at the End is a perfect album, period.
Black Roses and The 11th Hour were on my short list. I ended up going with The Maker. Keep it in mind, this was also written by Daniel Lanois, as was The Messenger. So rule number 1, if the Tea Party is going to work with Daniel Lanois in one of his songs, it's going to turn out fantastic. The Maker is definitely that for me off of this disc.
It was definitely, obviously you heard it was on my short list.
Oh, yeah.
I did my best not to read the entire track listing of this album.
But you may as well just wrote down the entire album.
I should have. Dude,
I
loved it.
Again, this is what I love, right? Those albums that you didn't know existed. I still remember going back and doing the Tiffany discography, and I can't believe I'm talking about Tiffany on a Tea Party episode, but here we are. But you get to her later albums, and they're so freaking good and so different from that 80s, singing in the mall image of Tiffany. There's some depth to that songwriting later on in her career, and it's fantastic. These later albums, Candlebox is the same way, right? Those early albums, they hit pretty good. Their later stuff, Disappearing in Airports is my favorite Candlebox album of all time. Barely got any airplay. People didn't even know it existed. So good.
I didn't until your episode.
Yeah, it's such a great album. Oh.
You mentioned Tiffany. I don't know if I've told you this or not, but one of my all-time favorite keyboard solos is the keyboard solo from the cover of I Think We're Alone Now.
Which is, it's a weird cover.
It's good. It's good, but it's also that keyboard solo. It's simple and to the point, but it's simple and to the point. It's just really well played, and the melody is just so. Anyway, we're here to talk about Tea Party, not Tiffany, but that debut album was huge, man.
Oh, absolutely, you can't deny it.
I live right by Paramus, New Jersey. Trust me, man. There's 3 walls there. Huge album, very huge.
Blood Moon Rising, released in 2021, contains songs from both the Black River and Sunshine EPs. Black River, the song, did hit number 5 on the Canadian rock charts. So off of these 2 EP/1 album, what did you go with?
Can I first bring up that, isn't it kind of humorous to a degree that like they finally covered Led Zeppelin?
Well, that would be like, there are certain bands out there that sounds like other bands, and it's like, you're just waiting. You're waiting for it. But yeah, how many times, and I know like we really analyze it up here because of course they're Canadian. I'm surprised. Actually, maybe I'm not surprised, because if they had covered the Doors, it might have been a little on the nose.
Yeah, because that I should have mentioned that earlier, is that when Splendor Solace was presented to me, it was Jim Morrison singing for Led Zeppelin. Yeah.
It's basically Canadian Doors with Led Zeppelin as the backing band.
Yeah.
But yet they're a power trio.
Maybe they should cover The End.
Yeah. If they did.
Or any Doors. I'm a huge Doors fan.
It would be fantastic. Of course, I also just called them, like hard rock Leonard Cohen. So here we are.
Well, there you go. That's a little more on the nose if you want to get down to lyrics.
Vocally, yes. Blood Moon Rising. What's your pick?
Blood Moon Rising.
Watsy's song? Yeah. This feels like the end of a concept album. It's almost campfire-esque, but in a strong campfire-esque kind of way. And I kind of wish the rest of the album kind of had that feel and would have felt almost like a concept album. But I also had So Careless, Black River, and Summertime on my short list. But yeah, Blood Moon Rising, Watsy's song, fantastic. All right. So now that we've done our 10 album run, Sean, you know the drill.
Mm-hmm.
Please remind our listeners what your picks are. And then, if there can only be one Tea Party song from the 10 that you've picked, what's it going to be?
From the Tea Party, I chose Watching What the Rain Blows In. From Splendor Solace, I went with Dreams of Reason. From The Edges of Twilight, I went with Correspondences. Does It Tear You Apart? From Alhambra, I went with Time. From Transmission, I went with Release. From Triptych, I went with The Messenger. From the Interzone Mantras, I went with Requiem. From Seven Circles, I went with The Watcher. From The Ocean at the End, I went with The Ocean at the End. And from Blood Moon Rising, I went with Blood Moon Rising. Wow, I just realized what I did for those past 2 albums.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to pick just one, part of me wanted to Madonna and say Fire in the Head, but I'm not going to, because that was before I heard the album The Ocean at the End, and I'm going to go with The Ocean at the End.
Yeah, you kind of gave it away a little bit, the way you were kind of gushing about that album and that song.
Oh,
but
dude.
I mean, we're kind of Captain Obvious on this show here, but that's okay.
Yeah.
From their self-titled album, I went with Watching What the Rain Blows In. From Splendor Solace, I went with The River. From the Edges of Twilight, I went with Sister Awake. From Alhambra, I went with Time. From Transmission, I went with Psychopomp. Off of Triptych, I went with These Living Arms. From the Interzone Mantras, I went with Lullaby. From Seven Circles, I went with Empty Glass. From The Ocean at the End, I went with The Maker. And from Blood Moon Rising, I went with Blood Moon Rising, Watsy's Song. And you know me. You know I'm a bassist. That's not playing into it this time around.
Wow.
I'm going with These Living Arms off of Triptych. This is the song I want and need to hear live. One day it's going to happen. Sean, thank you so much for this. Now, please let our listeners know where they can find you on the interwebs and what you've been up to.
I am currently still David Bryan at Slippery When Wet, New Jersey, the nation's longest, I'm sorry, the United States, this nation, not your nation, your great nation, by the way, I should say, the nation's longest running tribute to Bon Jovi, all 80s, all the time. And of course, Sean Faust, my own music, just Linktree that up, look up Sean Faust music, look up Gin Asylum, 1 million sales, help me help those kitties. I have a feral cat in my room right now, right next to me. She doesn't want to be in here, but she needed medicine. And, well, I figured she liked me just enough as a feral cat for me to take care of her. So you know what I need, folks? I need to help cats. I need you to buy Gin Asylum. All
right, Sean, thank you so much. And you know, we got to do an Econoline Crush episode coming up.
That's a deep dive I'm pretty interested in.
Done and done. We will set that up. All right. Dear listeners, you guys know the drill. If there's an artist that you want us to cover on There Can Only Be One, or an album that you want us to cover on Spin Shuffle Skip, hit us up on social media at Only One Cast, or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com. And while you're there, make sure you check out our merch section, because if you like the shows, then you're going to like the shirts and you're going to like everything else we got. Until next time, he's Sean, I'm Jay. You guys are awesome. This is There Can Only Be One, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Take care.